Now this whole concept, even something known as the Overton window. Jack, you may be familiar with the Overton window, but it's a neat little box whereby ideas are considered mainstream. Now think about it. The box sits here, and in that box, there's all the mainstream ideas that we can talk about civilly and peacefully because it seems okay to discuss. Whether you're right or wrong, pro or con, they're inside that box. The box, however, is moving to the left so quickly that even ideas that once were considered outrageous, such as defunding the police, are now in the Overton window. And ideas that were once considered outrageous, such as men can help babies, are now in the Overton window. The entire language has shifted to the left, and so the concept and the ideas have shifted. Now we're talking about things that used to be seen as lunacy. What about this? Every system in our government inherently racist. You say that 30 years ago, nobody has a serious conversation about that. You say it now, it's right there in the Overton window. We've allowed it to shift that way because of these little tiny compromises we make all along the way. Now, you keep saying, Chris, you don't sound like you want to work with the other side. You're exactly right.
Why would we want to work with the other side when all they're doing is everything they can to destroy not just our country, but what is considered true norms? I mean, because they are changing the definition of what normal is. And that's something we need to be fighting back against. I mean, every day you find a crazy story.
You know, normal, it's hard to define normalcy, but we always kind of define it in that Overton window. You know, the ideas that were considered mainstream. We had debates about Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, and we had debates about the growth of the welfare state. But those are things that were in the window, and they were seeing legitimate ideas, and people discussed them. Some wanted more government, some wanted less, but they were always in the window. Now we're talking about the abolition of whole agencies. We're talking about the reparations. Well, these are considered mainstream ideas. A few years ago, nobody took reparations seriously. Now, cities are starting to pay reparations.
Yeah.
Lawsuits will be filed to stop that process. Remember, Overton window. And every time we compromise, that window moves to the left, and we become more and more problematic because the language is controlled by the other side of the equation. Now, I tell you all this because Samuel Alito seems to share that opinion. Oh, I know that should disqualify him, right? He can't serve on the court ever again. But really, he's sharing something that it's only a matter of common sense if one thinks about it. Yeah. If you are a conservative, how do you conserve anything if you're giving it away piece by tiny piece? Here's what's weird about it. I don't know if you guys saw this story, but Alito was approached at an event, and it was a liberal documentary filmmaker. Her name is Lauren Windsor. She posed as a religious conservative talking to Justice Alito, and she recorded it secretly. Now, look, I realize that politics is a dirty business, but when you start recording secret conversations just to get somebody, isn't there something inherently wrong about that?
It's unethical.
She's a reporter. She's a documentary filmmaker. I guess she would call herself a reporter under these circumstances. Yeah. But, I mean, there's just something distasteful about the whole process. I don't think conservatives should do that. I don't think liberals should do that. It's just a matter of decency. But we talked about that last week. It's a question of men and women without chest. She doesn't have any ethics. Yeah. There are no ethics left in this country. So she records it secretly, and so she sits the guy up. She sits him up, and she says, I don't know how that we can negotiate with the left in the way that needs to happen for the polarization to end. That's what she told Alito. And she said, I think it's just a matter of, like, winning. Now, that's setting him up, boy.
Oh, yeah.
Setting him up. And he said the right thing. He says, I think you're probably right. That's a fairly educated answer. He didn't say darn straight. He didn't say absolutely. I think you're probably right. That's a man who's considered the issues, I think, rationally. And then he said this. Now, you tell me, even if you're a liberal, you tell me if we're wrong about this, because I know you see it this way. You've just been playing the game all these years. You know you're winning this in Washington. You know you're winning it in Jackson and the state capitals. But you know the words here should not be inherently objectionable because you feel the same way. This is what he said. He goes, on one side or the other, one side or the other, he said, is going to win. I don't know. I mean, there can be a way of working, a way of living together peacefully, but it's difficult, you know, because there are differences on fundamental things that really can't be compromised. Mm-hmm. They really can't be compromised. So it's not like you're going to split the difference. Listen to what he said. Listen to what he said. You liberals out there, you believe that too. You just don't want to say it because the game you've played for the last 30 years is tricking conservatives and Republicans into believing that compromise is honorable and compromise is good, knowing you never had any intention of compromising, none whatsoever. Instead, you took advantage of our weakness, and you've basically changed this country one small step at a time. But look at what he says. I'm going to read it again because I think it's profound and it's going to get him under so much attack, but they believe this too. If I were to ask Bernie Sanders this question inverted, he would agree. If I were to ask AOC this question, she would agree. Here's what he said. On one side or the other is going to win. I don't know. I mean, there can be a way of working, a way of living together peacefully, but it's difficult, because there are differences on fundamental things that really can't be compromised. What's wrong with that?
No.
What's wrong with that man's statement? You know it's accurate. You know it's truthful. In your heart of hearts, you know this country is so divided, there can't be a compromise any longer, at least from my perspective. And yet now he's being once again attacked.